I feel like if you're a man and you're dealing with another man, you should keep the beef between you and that man. You know what I'm saying? To bring me in it, it's like I wasn't as affected as my family was. Like they really felt some kind of way. And
Welcome back to Buzzbuster. I'm glad you're here. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss daily videos. Tiny Harris is finally speaking out about the explosive clash involving T.I. and 50 Cent, and her comments are only making the story feel even more complicated.
I wanna say something about my mama. Your mama dead as fuck, nigga. Your mama dead as fuck. Go dig her up. Go dig her up. Fuck. Post a picture of your motherfucking mama, nigga. She dead, nigga. Pay respect, nigga. Stop fucking playing with my mama, nigga.
During her appearance on the Tamron Hall show, Tiny addressed the situation directly, describing it as unnecessary and saying it went far beyond what it ever should have become. What makes this stand out is how much bigger it now seems. At first, it looked like just another disagreement between two major figures in hip-hop. Now, it has grown into something far more personal.
very different. I already know King is gonna go, he's gonna go to bat for me at all costs, you know.
Family members have been pulled into the drama, emotions have escalated, private tension has turned into a very public conflict that keeps drawing in more attention. One detail in particular caught people off guard. Tiny suggested that she wasn't even the person hit hardest by everything that happened. According to her, the people who felt it most were those closest to home, especially her sons and other family members. That shift changes the entire picture. Suddenly, this is no longer only about artists trading tension in the spotlight. It's about how those issues spread beyond the original feud and affect the people around them.
I just couldn't ask, but I didn't know they were gonna do that, especially the money. It was a shock to me. It was very different. I already know King is gonna go, he's gonna go to bat for me at all costs.
What may have once looked like simple industry rivalry has now developed into a layered dispute involving loyalty, respect, and public image. Each new reaction seems to add another chapter, and with more voices entering the conversation, it's becoming harder to see this ending anytime soon. This also didn't appear overnight. The strain between T.I. and 50 Cent has reportedly been building for years, lingering beneath the surface and growing more noticeable over time. What stayed in the background for so long now seems to be unfolding in full view, with every new comment adding more pressure to an already tense situation. At this point, the real story may not just be about how it started, but about how far it has spread. And if Tiny's remarks are any indication, there may be even more beneath the surface than people realized. Back in the 2000s, this felt like a rivalry built on status, skill, and dominance.
Any nigga talk like this?
You talking about you and 50?
Yeah, man. We talk about this shit, man. This shit just come out of nowhere. Nigga, we were moving around in LA, man, selling some TV shows and shit while we were around each other, man. You know what I mean? I said, shit, what you think about this? Like, shit, you wanna do that shit? I said, yeah.
Each artist stood at the top of hip-hop in his own way, but the contrast between them was impossible to miss. Their music sounded different, their fan bases moved differently, and even the way they carried themselves in public came from totally separate worlds. Years later, in 2026, the entire situation flared back up with surprising speed. What pulled it back into the spotlight was the idea of a versus battle, a matchup fans had wanted for a long time. According to T.I., this was not just internet talk. He said real conversations had taken place privately, and at one stage, both camps were at least willing to entertain it. Everything seemed like it might actually happen. T.I. then spoke on it publicly, seemingly believing the momentum was there and the next step would follow. Instead, the mood changed almost immediately. No official confirmation came, no clear agreement showed up.
He was like, all right, cool, so shit. And I told him, I said, well, I'm gonna jump out there first, and then you just gonna jump out there and we'll line it up. Wow. And he said, all right. And when I jump out there, nigga act like he ain't know what the fuck was going on. Then that's what it was about. You know what I'm saying? Now, It bad. Oh, you playing.
What arrived instead was a cold response, followed by public jokes that many people interpreted as disrespect. 50 Cent did not issue a straightforward rejection. Rather than simply saying no, he answered through social media in a way that shifted the entire atmosphere. The most heavily discussed moment came when he posted old courtroom footage to mock T.I. That single move did more than cool off the Verse's idea. It pushed the tension into a completely different space. For T.I., that was the point where it stopped feeling like light back and forth. In his view, a private discussion had now been dragged into public view and turned into entertainment. Once that happened, the energy surrounding the situation was no longer competitive in the usual sense. What had once looked like a possible cultural event suddenly became personal. The conversation moved away from music, away from the excitement of a battle, and into something sharper and more public than fans expected. From there, the tone changed for good. What started as a clash tied to music and rivalry quickly crossed a different line.
How did Falant's family find out about his death?
I told him. I called his mom first, then I told his cousin. I told his little girl.
How old was his little girl?
His daughter was 4 years old at the time. Five years old at the time.
And how did you tell his daughter that her father was dead?
He's in a better place and he won't be coming back.
At first, the tension seemed contained between two men. That changed fast. Right when it looked like the conflict had reached its peak, the focus moved in a new direction. Rather than keeping his attention on T.I., 50 Cent brought Tiny into the middle of it. From there, the entire situation took on a much more personal tone. Soon after, photos of Tiny appeared online through posts from 50, and the response came almost instantly. Plenty of fans saw it as unnecessary, chaotic, and way too far. Up to that point, some people may have viewed the feud as just another public back and forth. Once Tiny was pulled into it, the mood shifted. What had seemed like spectacle suddenly felt much more invasive. Instead of reacting with more drama, Tiny spoke directly and kept her message measured. Her words were calm, but they landed with force. She made her position clear without turning it into a bigger fight. In her view, if a man has a problem with another man, the issue should stay there.
At this point, 50 Cent should literally rent a wife and kids and have them make diss responses. And the fact that he would actually have to rent a woman and children to like him and to respond on his behalf on for T.I. and Tiny's whole family is telling.
That statement was straightforward, yet it said everything it needed to say. More importantly, she wasn't trying to inflame the situation. She was setting a limit. There was a clear line in her response, and she wanted everyone to understand that crossing into family or personal territory was not something she respected. What also caught people's attention was how candid she was about the emotional side of it. Tiny admitted that on a personal level, she wasn't as rattled as some might have assumed. She didn't allow the moment to completely unsettle her, and that made her response stand out even more. Rather than feeding the chaos, she stayed composed.
That restraint changed how many people saw the entire feud. Her reaction didn't add fuel to the fire. If anything, it exposed just how far things had drifted from simple competition. By the time she spoke out, this was no longer just a dispute playing out in public. It had become something far more personal, and everyone watching could feel the difference. She never really lost her cool. On the surface, she stayed calm, controlled, and careful with every move. Yet the bigger fallout didn't show up in her reaction at all. It surfaced through the people closest to her. While she kept things restrained, her family clearly saw the moment very differently.
Like, if you're a man and you're dealing with another man, you should keep the beef between you and that man. You know what I'm saying? To bring me in it, it's like, I wasn't as affected as my family was. Like, they really felt some kind of way. And I was like what?
Their response wasn't quiet, and it wasn't minor either. In a flash, what it looked like another celebrity dispute took a sharp turn into something far messier and far less predictable. The story stopped feeling like a routine entertainment headline and started carrying a completely different energy. Up to that point, the tension was already building. Still, the real shift came when Tiny's son entered the picture. Once that happened, the tone changed immediately. What had been a back and forth between major figures in the industry no longer stayed contained. Suddenly, a younger voice stepped in, and the feud took on a much more public and confrontational edge. King Harris made it especially clear that he had no interest in staying on the sidelines. He jumped onto Instagram and began posting messages that pulled instant attention. Rather than hinting at his frustration, he went straight at 50 Cent, using sarcasm and pointed ridicule that spread fast across social media. Nothing about those posts felt subtle. Every upload seemed crafted to get a reaction. By reposting pictures, adding his own captions, and layering in commentary, King transformed the moment into a direct online showdown. The exchange no longer felt indirect or speculative. It became visible, public, and impossible to ignore. One post in particular stood out from the rest. In that moment,
better than my motherfucking mama, nigga. Fuck wrong with you, nigga. Y'all niggas better tie y'all motherfucking shoes. Y'all niggas don't know who the fuck y'all fucking with, nigga. You better put that music up, and nigga, shut the fuck up, nigga. Cause all that other shit ain't gonna get it. On my mother. Your mama dead as fuck.
King challenged 50's public persona and referenced parts of his past that had already circulated in older conversations online. By bringing those narratives back into focus and presenting them from a new angle, he sparked a wave of debate across the internet. Almost overnight, the temperature of the feud rose. What started as tension between established names was now being amplified by family involvement, social media pressure, and a much more personal tone. From there, the situation felt less controlled than ever, and people watching could tell this conflict had entered a completely new phase. The clash was loud, highly emotional, and impossible to ignore. It had all the ingredients of a moment that would catch fire online within minutes. What made it even more surprising was Demonic stepping in. He usually comes across as calm, measured, and careful in public, so seeing him enter the situation changed everything. A lot of people were stunned by it. Even Tiny admitted she did not expect that reaction from him. She said herself that his response caught her off guard, and that alone showed how personally everyone was taking the situation. His involvement signaled that this was no longer something minor happening on the sidelines. It had clearly hit a deeper nerve. King, on the other hand, was a different story. Tiny made it clear that his support was never in doubt.
Post a picture of your motherfucking mama, nigga. She dead, nigga. Pay respect, nigga. Stop fucking playing with my mama, nigga. Nigga ain't playing like that. Niggas ain't going like that, nigga. How y'all bitch ass niggas raised? I'm not raised like that. I don't go. I'm not going about my mama, nigga.
She already knew he would stand up for her without hesitation. That kind of loyalty was familiar, almost guaranteed. Still, the way it unfolded brought a new level of heat to the entire situation. Suddenly, this was no longer just a dispute between artists. The mood had shifted. Emotions were now driving the story, and family loyalty mixed with personal pride made everything feel much bigger than before. What may have started as a disagreement had turned into something far more intense, with every reaction adding more pressure and more attention. Still, even with that rising tension, few people were prepared for how extreme some of the responses would become. As more posts appeared, the tone changed again. What first looked like defense started moving into a far more uncomfortable space. Certain remarks and reactions began to stand out for the wrong reasons, causing even longtime followers to stop and take a second look. That was the moment the feud seemed to take on a life of its own. It was no longer just about who said what first. The conversation had become more emotionally charged, more personal, and far more complicated than anyone initially expected.
Especially the money, it was a shock to me. It was...
The images were already testing the edge of what many people were willing to accept. Within rap feud culture, King's replies didn't just get sharper, they became intensely personal and impossible to overlook. A few of those posts aimed at 50 Cent touched on subjects many people considered deeply private. That was the moment everything online seemed to ignite. To
To some viewers, it looked like a son fiercely defending his mother with no filter and no hesitation. Others saw something very different. In their eyes, the exchange stepped into territory that should have remained off limits, regardless of the tension behind it. Almost immediately, social media fractured into two camps. Supporters praised King's loyalty, arguing that his reaction reflected strong family pride and a willingness to stand up for the people closest to him. Critics pushed back just as hard, saying emotional situations still need limits and that certain lines should never be crossed in public. Very quickly, the debate stopped being only about the comments themselves. A bigger question started taking over the conversation. When family is involved, how far is too far in front of the entire internet? As that argument spread, the story grew fast. More users joined in, more opinions flooded timelines, and the scrutiny became impossible to escape. Every new reaction seemed to pull the situation into an even brighter spotlight.
They're different. I already know King is he's gonna go to bat for me at all costs.
Yet, while the public focused on the visible fallout, another layer of the story was quietly taking shape behind the scenes. Something else was building, away from the comment sections and reposts, and it had the potential to push this drama far beyond what anyone expected. While his sons were dealing with the conflict in full view of the public, a separate development was unfolding in the background. And once that piece entered the picture, this already heated situation was no longer just a social media clash. It was becoming something much larger. T.I. made one thing unmistakable. He was done. No more back and forth, no more public sparring, and no interest in revisiting the situation. Across several appearances, he spoke plainly and left very little open to interpretation. Any hope that the tension might cool off was shut down immediately. At the center of it all was a blunt admission. T.I. said he no longer has respect for 50 Cent, which carries real weight when you consider how far back their history goes. This was not a vague comment or heat-of-the-moment reaction.
Boy is definitely the family crash out. I know, because I can relate. And T.I. said that he told King Harris that bringing up 50 Cent's dead mama was taking it too far.
It sounded final, measured, and intentional. Just as revealing was what he said about the versus matchup that once had fans talking. For a long time, people treated that battle like a major event waiting to happen. T.I. put an end to that idea in direct terms. It will not happen. Not anytime soon, and not somewhere down the road. He closed the door completely. What made the statement hit harder was the explanation behind it. In T.I.'s view, the issue was bigger than a simple disagreement. The way everything played out mattered just as much as the conflict itself. Public ridicule, social media posts, and the overall direction the situation took changed the tone entirely. From his perspective, the line had already been crossed. That shift, according to T.I., affected more than just a potential collaboration. It damaged the basic level of regard needed for two artists to even share the same platform. He made it clear he has no desire to stand on stage with 50 Cent again, which signaled something deeper than an ordinary feud. By that point, any remaining sense of mutual regard seemed gone.
And he took it a step further in his new music video. I just can't see how 50 Cent can respond to this. Like, you gotta do something. Cause he did what? He said, what about your mom?
Meanwhile, another detail started drawing attention. T.I. did not appear isolated in how he felt. A moment involving Rick Ross made that especially obvious. When the two seemed to move in sync, their position came through without needing to be spelled out. No direct naming was necessary. The message was clear, and anyone following the situation understood exactly who it was about. The message behind it was hard to miss. No love for the other side didn't sound like a casual remark. It landed more like a clear warning, a public sign that this was growing into something much larger than a simple back and forth. At that point, the tension no longer felt like a personal clash between two artists. Suddenly, it looked more like the culture itself was splitting into camps. with people in the industry either quietly signaling support or making their position obvious. What started as an issue centered on T.I. and 50 Cent was no longer staying between them. More names began surfacing and more opinions started pouring in. Once that shift happened, everything escalated fast. A situation that had originally involved only a handful of major figures expanded into a much broader discussion across hip-hop. Artists weren't just reacting anymore.
According to Mr. T.I., he said that he lost respect for 50 Cent after backing out of the Versus battle because they did previously discuss actually celebrating each other's catalog and going head-to-head a few years ago. So when T.I. originally mentioned it, he was not expecting 50 Cent to decline and to go online and do all of the heckling that he's been doing.
Many were adding their own perspective, their own commentary, and in some cases, bringing long-standing frustrations into the spotlight. Among the first to really intensify the moment was 50 Foreign. Late at night, he posted a string of tweets that quickly spread across social media. Instead of focusing only on 50 Cent, he widened the conversation, calling attention to several artists across the industry. That move instantly changed the temperature. His approach was direct and raw, with no attempt to soften the message. Rather than treating the situation like ordinary online drama, he raised a bigger question. Why were so many of these problems unfolding in public on the internet instead of being addressed privately and directly? That question struck a nerve. It wasn't only about who was right or wrong anymore. The real story became the way these conflicts were being handled and how quickly they were pulling more people into the mix. As each new voice entered the conversation, the feud became less about one disagreement and more about a growing divide inside the hip-hop world. What made the moment especially intense,
you see what's happening?
No love for the other side.
No love for the other side.
was how public everything had become. Every post, every reaction, and every side comment added more fuel. Before long, this wasn't just a dispute. It had become a full industry-wide conversation, with everyone watching to see who would speak next. At the center of it all was a message that felt direct and impossible to ignore. When something goes wrong, deal with it plainly. Handle it in person. Don't let it turn into a show for everyone else to consume. That idea landed hard because by then, the tension between 50 and T.I. was no longer something private. What may have started as a personal issue had already transformed into a public storyline. People weren't just hearing about it anymore. They were following it closely, reacting instantly, and picking sides as if they were watching an ongoing series unfold. 50's remarks stood out for a reason. He wasn't simply criticizing specific people involved in the back and forth. His words pushed at something larger, the environment that allows these moments to grow into entertainment. In other words, the issue wasn't just the disagreement itself. It was the way the culture around it kept rewarding escalation, reaction, and spectacle. And he wasn't alone in raising that point. Mano and Papoose soon became part of the discussion as well, both speaking on 50's well-known history of trolling and making things public. Their involvement changed the tone of the conversation. Suddenly, this no longer looked like one random dispute blowing up online. It began to resemble part of a much bigger pattern, one that more people in the industry seemed increasingly unwilling to ignore. What really separated this moment from others was the speed and force behind it. Each new opinion seemed to pull in even more attention. One post led to another. A reaction triggered a fresh response. Even the smallest sideways comment seemed to intensify a situation that already had plenty of heat around it. As more names entered the mix, the story kept growing and shifting. New angles appeared almost by the hour, and the public narrative became harder to predict or control. With so many voices weighing in, the situation stopped being just about two people. It became a larger conversation about how conflict is handled, who benefits when it plays out publicly, and why so many in the industry were finally beginning to challenge that cycle. As more pieces started falling into place, one thing kept pointing back to the same person. No matter how far the situation spread, Tiny remained at the heart of it, whether she intended to be or not. Now that more is unfolded, her first remarks carry a completely different weight. In the beginning, she sounded controlled and steady, especially against the noise and confusion exploding online. Looking back though, those comments feel less like a casual response and more like the still point in a situation that kept getting louder around her. She openly recognized the way her family came to support her. At the same time, she never appeared to push the tension further. That balance matters. She showed appreciation for their loyalty without turning that support into more conflict. Her line about them feeling some kind of way stands out much more now. It hinted at how personal all of this was for the people closest to her. Even if she kept her public image calm, the reaction from her family clearly came from a deeply emotional place. Pride, protectiveness, and personal investment were driving their response. That difference is exactly why this moment feels so revealing. Tiny never seemed interested in matching the intensity coming at her. Rather than trading shots online or trying to win the back and forth, she stayed composed while everything around her grew more chaotic. What makes the story even more striking is that the energy around her didn't stop there. While she remained measured, her son stepped in, and before long, more voices were pulled into the dispute. Suddenly, what could have stayed a simple disagreement began turning into something larger, more layered, and much harder to contain. Through all of it, Tiny's original tone now feels less accidental and more telling. She may have been one of the calmest people involved, yet the fallout around her kept building. That contrast between her restraint and everyone else's emotional reaction is what gives this entire moment its real tension. In the middle of all the noise, she stayed still.
And honestly, I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't as affected as my family was. Like they really felt some kind of way, and I was like whatever, you know what I'm saying? But I appreciate them for wanting to step up, and it was very. I just couldn't ask, but I didn't know they were.
And somehow that made everything happening around her stand out even more. What was once a contained dispute suddenly exploded into something much bigger, spilling across headlines, social media clips, and non-stop public conversation. A matter that began between two men didn't stay private for long. Every response, every reaction, and every new development pushed it further into the spotlight. Yet the most surprising part of the entire situation is who ended up at the center of it. Tiny was never looking to be drawn into this conflict. Still, once her name became attached to the story, the entire tone shifted. That twist changed how people viewed the feud and gave the fallout a much more personal edge, which leads to the real issue here. Did 50 Cent misjudge how serious this could become once family entered the picture? What had been a bitter rivalry between two major hip-hop figures no longer felt like a standard back and forth. The moment personal boundaries were crossed, the tension deepened, and the stakes became far more complicated. This isn't only about T.I. and 50 anymore. Now the conversation touches on loyalty, image, and the kind of respect people expect when family's involved. Once the next generation became part of the story, everything changed. A feud that might have once seemed familiar suddenly took on new layers, and those layers made the entire situation harder to ignore. From there, the conflict stopped being just another industry clash. It became something more tangled, more emotional, and much more public. Viewers weren't just watching the disagreement unfold anymore. They were watching the ripple effects of one moment spread outward and pull more people into the narrative. Through all of this, Tiny became the unexpected focal point. Not because she stepped into the drama on purpose, but because the drama reached her anyway. From that point forward, everything seemed to branch out from her involvement, whether intended or not. At this stage, the pressure is building. The divide between sides is more obvious, and the story feels far from over. What started as old tension is turned into a layered public conflict that keeps growing in real time. Each day, more people seem to be stepping into the conversation, making the situation feel even more unpredictable. At this point, the story's already grown so much that whatever comes next could be on an even larger scale. Now, the spotlight turns to what happens from here. Share your take in the comments if this breakdown caught your attention. Showing support is easy. Just hit like on the video and help the channel keep growing. For more Hollywood news and the latest buzz, subscribe to Holly Hype TV and switch on notifications so every new upload reaches you right away. We'll be back with more soon. Until then, take care.